Nick Skrip talking my NBA playoff bracket. So on the Eastern Conference round one, we will have the number one seed Milwaukee moving on. Giannis has averaged a career high in points this season, 31.1, also 11.8 rebounds. Cleveland at the number 4 seed versus number 5 New York. Despite Cleveland having the better record, New York has won 3 out of 4 of their matchups this season, but I like Cleveland's balance of having two scorers, both averaging over 21 points in Donovan Mitchell plus Darius Garland, and also two big men averaging 9 and 9.8 boards this season, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. So give me Cleveland. Number 3, Philly versus number 6, Brooklyn. Post the series of trades Brooklyn ended up dealing, this team is completely different and isn't competing this year, so easily give me Philly there. Number 2 seed Boston versus number 8 seed Atlanta. Atlanta just squeaked into this spot as a 500 team. Boston beat them in all 3 matchups this season. Give me Boston.
All right, guys, time to go round by round for my picks for the 2023 NBA playoffs. Starting in the Eastern Conference with Milwaukee and the 8 seed. Remains to be seen right now. Is it going to be the Heat? Is it going to be the Bulls? Either way, Milwaukee rolls fairly easily in this one. Really looking forward to the Cavaliers and Knicks series. Really looking forward to seeing Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell just swap taking over for their teams late in the fourth quarter. I think we're going to have some great games. For me, it really comes down to Evan Mobley being the difference maker in this matchup. So I have the Cavaliers advancing, not to mention Julius Randle's health is a bit of a concern. Moving on to the 3 versus 6 matchup, Sixers versus Nets. This is a vastly different Brooklyn team than earlier in the season, obviously. And I do think Philly is rounding into form a bit. I can see them sweeping, and I can see them winning in 5 games as well. So I'm going Sixers in this matchup. As far as the 2 versus 7 goes, Boston's going to roll as well. I love Dejounte Murray, but asking him to switch back and forth covering Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown is a little too difficult. I would be surprised if the Hawks win more than 1 game in this series.
Western Conference round 1. We'll have Denver moving on as the number 1 seed. Jokic is averaged 24.8 points and 11.8 rebounds this season. There's going to be no cheat codes that lets him not win this first round. Number 4 seed Phoenix versus number 5 seed LA Clippers. They split 2-2 this season. Obviously, both teams had some moving pieces from the start to now on their rosters. A lot of hype for the series is probably going to be about, Kawhi Leonard and playoff Kawhi, Russ versus KD and their historical beef. I just don't see a healthy world in a combination on LA that's going to be better than the combination of Devin Booker and KD in this series. So give me Phoenix. Number 3, Sacramento versus number 6, Golden State. I'm actually a huge Sacramento fan. I don't know why. Specifically, De'Aaron Fox, who does not get the respect he deserves. I feel like he's averaged 25 points this season. Sabonis just under 20 and just over 12 rebounds a game. Steph, Clay, and Poole all averaged over 20 points, though, this season. You have the champions from last year looking close to full health with Wiggins trending up. It's hard to go against Golden State in this first round, so I'm going to take Golden State. Then we got number 2, Memphis versus number 7, LA Lakers. LA is 2-1 on the year in this series. 3 out of 4 of King James' last games, he has scored 33-plus points in. Ja's averaging 26.2 points and 8.2 assists. Desmond Bane, 21.5 points. A healthy Jaren Jackson is averaging a ridiculous 3 blocks per game. A 51-win Memphis team gets the job done here.
Heading on over to the Western Conference, starting out Denver versus the 8 seed. Denver rolls easily. Expect this to be over in 4 with a few superstar numbers from Jokic in this series. 4 versus 5 matchups, probably going to be one of the more anticipated matchups in this playoffs. We're talking Suns and Clippers. I mean, KD and Booker alone are pushing 55 to 60 points combined on a nightly basis. And unfortunately, I don't really think many people, including myself, is going to believe in the Clippers, Paul George, or Kawhi Leonard until they prove it. They've pretty much been a 500 or a little bit above 500 team since Kawhi joined, and they're just simply not a great defensive team. Booker, KD, and the Suns will exploit that. As far as the 3 versus 6 matchup goes, I like the Kings. They're easy to root for. Love De'Aaron Fox. I thought the trade for Sabonis was fantastic at the time they did it. But honestly, this is probably the worst possible matchup you can get after making the playoffs for the first time in forever. Golden State is looking more and more like themselves. It's business as usual for them, and they're 8-2 over their last 10 heading into the playoffs. So I have Golden State advancing here. For the 2 versus 7 matchup in the West, Memphis versus the Lakers, I wanted to be sneaky and pick the Lakers, but ultimately I think Memphis is way too talented of a team, and I don't trust Anthony Davis's health at all. Memphis is just so well-rounded from top to bottom with all of their various playmakers. Nick and I disagree on a few things when it comes to Memphis, but I do think that they beat the Lakers fairly handily, maybe in 5 or 6 games.
Eastern Conference semifinals, Milwaukee versus Cleveland. They're 2-2 on the year. 7 more total wins for Milwaukee. They split earlier this season. My spicy take is that I think Cleveland gets this done. I feel like they have more guys to contribute to different areas and different categories. This will be my upset call of the conference semifinals round. If they can slow down Giannis or Spider, Donovan Mitchell, can match the scoring, I think Garland can pick up Spider more than anybody can pick up Giannis when looking at these two teams. So give me Cleveland. Then we have Philly versus Boston. Don't want to get fired here. No offense, Ben, but I might have to go Boston in this one. Philly did just beat Boston April 4th, but Boston has won the other 3 games in their matchups this season. Similar records with a 3W edge for Boston, but slightly better defensive numbers for the 76ers. In 3 of these games, Embiid was the Philly high scorer. For Boston, it was Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Malcolm Brogdon tied in another game. Then Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown tied in another game as the Boston lead scorers in these series. I think Boston has more guys that contribute outside of their superstar. Harden is solid. Maxey steps up, but I think Boston is more complete and more well-rounded on offense. I'm taking Boston.
Heading on to the second round of the playoffs, we're going Milwaukee and Cleveland to start off with the Eastern Conference. Listen, this is going to be another series that's just full of superstar plays when it comes to Giannis and when it comes to Donovan Mitchell. I think we can see maybe Darius Garland being a little bit of an X factor here, but in the end, I think the Bucks are just too complete of a team led by Giannis and have them moving on in 6 or 7 games. Philly Boston. I know myself and a lot of other Philly fans are certainly skeptical about the Sixers' chances to beat Boston, and rightfully so. That said, and maybe this is me being a Philly homer, but I think they get it done. They have the MVP. I know on paper the numbers look bad in terms of their record against the Celtics during the season, but don't let some of those items fool you. One of their losses to the Celtics was on a buzzer beater in which Al Horford needed to hit 5 3-pointers just to get them to that point. And then in another loss to the Celtics, Blake Griffin and Grant Williams combined for 9 3-pointers. So I think some of the raw data and stats with this season series is a little skewed, and I am finally going with the Sixers to make it out of the second round here.
Western Conference semifinals, Denver versus Phoenix. Phoenix just beat Denver on April 6th and March 31st. The season is split 2-2. If we are again looking at star power, Jokic obviously is an absolute monster across all stats. It's hard for me to say, though, that if a healthy full core of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and CP3 have a full series against Denver, that Jokic himself is going to overcome that. So I'm going to actually take the Suns in a perfectly healthy world in this conference semifinals. Golden State versus Memphis. You know, we have the Dylan Brooks, Draymond Green beef from earlier this season. They had the heated playoffs from last season that featured some dancing and then some copying of the dancing when Golden State pulled it off. Spicy, but let's go revenge season for the young guys, and Memphis takes it home.
Over in the Western Conference, if we look at Denver and Phoenix, I feel like this is a popular pick. I think a lot of people are going to be with me and with Nick on this one. and it's just going to come down to picking the team with two of the most lethal scores in the game. I know the series is split, but Phoenix also has beaten Denver twice in a row recently. And again, I think it's one of those things where eventually just the sheer volume is going to outweigh anything that Jokic and Denver can do. The other Western Conference semifinals, Memphis and Golden State. Frankly, I'm just not betting against a Steph Curry-led team and a healthy Warriors team. Even more encouraging was the great reports coming out recently concerning Andrew Wiggins' health and that he has looked fantastic. So if he comes back or slowly eases into it in the playoffs and is ready to go full force, coming down the wire to a Western Conference semifinals, I'm picking Golden State to advance here.
Eastern Conference Finals, Cleveland versus Boston. 3 overtime games this season between these two teams. Cleveland won all of those overtime games. Boston pulled off the other one. This, though, is where the Cinderella story ends. Give me Boston. Western Conference Finals, Phoenix versus Memphis. They split 2-2 on games played this season. Again, pending health, should Durant, CP3, and Booker get here, they aren't leaving without getting to the finals. I'm going to take Phoenix beating Memphis in the Western Conference Finals. NBA Finals, Boston versus Phoenix. Both won one of the 2 games played this season. I'm taking Boston to win it all this year.
Heading back over to the Eastern Conference, we're talking Milwaukee and Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference Finals. It goes 7, but my Sixers fall to the Bucks here. I think it's a case of what happens when you have to play, when you're in, this is the reason getting that 1 or 2 seed is so important, because I think this is going to be a case of when you have to play both Boston and Milwaukee, eventually that fatigue is going to set in, and there's still obviously lingering doubts about Harden in postseason, about Embiid in the postseason. So I do think Milwaukee pulls it out in 7 games here. And over in the Western Conference Finals, Phoenix versus Golden State, probably the most star-studded series of the playoffs, maybe outside of Philadelphia and Boston. And again, I'm just continuing to ride with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And then we have a rematch here. And for me, the Phoenix Suns will get revenge and be crowned the 2023 NBA champs.